Now it's time for me to introduce our next speaker for our next awesome session called Elevate Engagement with Kahoot EDU. And leading this session, we have with us Sydney Jones. And Sydney is a customer success manager at Kahoot, and she is based in Austin, Texas. She prefers tea over coffee. She enjoys taking her dog Boba for long walks. And guess what? It is her 1-year anniversary here at Kahoot. So this will be a workshop in elevating engagement with Kahoot EDU. And in this session, we will get to learn how to launch Kahoot to the next level. So let's join Sydney as she takes us through the functions and use cases. Handing it off to you, Sydney.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Amanda. I am so happy to be here. I've been answering your questions. You all have amazing questions, but yes, I'm here to talk all about Kahoot EDU, and I'm going to waste no time, and let's go ahead and launch into that demo. All right, everyone. So this is Kahoot EDU. Now to start, I always like to go into the creator to explore all of those advanced question types that are available with EDU. And this is where you want to head if you are creating a Kahoot. So this is our Kahoot creator. On the left-hand side, you're going to see our different options that you can add into your Kahoot with questions and slides. This is also where you can manage the Kahoot as it starts to grow. Now over on the right, you're going to see those various customization options with our question types and slides. Sometimes you do need to open it up. Now, because this is Kahoot EDU, I am going to start with our type answer question type. Now, this is where players are asked to type a short, correct answer to a question. So I am going to provide the example here of solve 9 plus 5. And I'll type in the answer to this question and also provide an alternative answer as well, keeping in mind the different ways that students may answer this question. So this will require students to answer the question without having a hint to the answer. And they're going to have to recall the answer to the question without any cues. Now, a couple of important things about type answer is it is not case sensitive. So there's no reason for me to type out 14 with a capital F. You can add up to 4 accepted answers with type answer, also meaning there can be 4 different correct answers to a type answer question. Whenever you are creating the question for a type answer, you will want to make sure it is very clear to the student what the correct answer might be for them to be successful with this slightly more difficult question type. Now, also with type answer, I like to show off our image reveal feature. So say I want to ask the students, I can then go to our Getty image library and find a beautiful picture of Paris, France, to include in my Kahoot. Now, rather than just having the image appear right away, you'll see that this feature called image reveal pops up. So I can have the image slowly reveal itself over time to reveal the answer to the question itself. It could also reveal a hint to the answer as well. And you can shuffle these around and decide what sized blocks you would like to use. Now moving on to our puzzle question type. Our puzzle question type is going to ask players or students to place the blocks in an appropriate order. So this is really great for chronological events, steps in a process, spelling, forming math equations, and more. And I am going to provide my answer to this question going from left to right. So I'm going to start out with Arkansas, move over to Colorado, next to Montana, and then Rhode Island. So here again, I'm placing the correct answer from left to right, and students would be asked to match this order to get this answer correct. So again, switching up the dynamics in your Kahoot, and again, it's a little bit more difficult of a question for students to answer. So be sure, and I do recommend, to practice this question type maybe in a simplified manner with your students prior to playing it in Kahoots in the future, just so they can get comfortable with answering our puzzle question type. Now going over back to add question, we're now moving into our collecting opinions. So really allowing students to have a voice and to share their voice. So with word cloud, you can collect short free form poll responses, and it creates a beautiful word cloud as you see here. So maybe you want to ask the students, what is their favorite subject, to learn what subject they might be particularly interested in. Maybe what are they excited to learn about this year? What are they looking forward to? You can also ask, what is your favorite cuisine? And as you'll see here, that word cloud does appear in the report as well to be downloaded from the Kahoot once it's played. Now, if you want students to write or be able to type in longer responses to a question, you'll want to choose our open-ended question type. So this is where players can type up to 250 characters and submit their answers. They will be visualized as text cards. And what's really great about this question type here is that as the host, I can decide, do I want the answers to be revealed and discussed amongst the class, or do I want to just view them later in the report? So maybe you're simply asking, does anyone have any questions? You could then flip those cards over and answer those questions out loud with the students. You could also ask them any short answer question with our open-ended question type. And last but not least, we have our brainstorm question type. So this is where players do submit ideas. They then discuss the ideas and group similar ones together. You as the host are able to group those similar ones together. And then the students can vote on their favorite ideas. Now you can maybe ask, how can we make school greener or just more sustainable? You could also ask, what should our class pet be? Maybe virtual if they do come up with something quite creative. And I also definitely encourage the use of this question type administratively, in meetings internally. You can use this question type to really build up ideas and again, give everyone that voice with Brainstorm. Now, if you would have seen Sean's presentation earlier, my colleague Porik did present on interactive presentations. So you can add in questions, of course, to your Kahoot to provide that gamified learning experience, but also have the opportunity to collect those opinions. But now you can also add in slides as well. Slides create a great moment for pause, also a moment for instruction, for clarity in the Kahoot. And so you can add in one of our various slide templates here My personal favorite being big media. For big media, I would go over to videos to look at our YouTube integration, copy in a great YouTube video here, add it in, and then the video would appear in the Kahoot. It's the best way to embed a video in a Kahoot. You can also change the color of the background on any of our slide templates. Now going back to adding a slide, even more exciting for some, I'm sure, is the ability to import slides that you've already created. So you can upload your file in here. It will upload the entire presentation. And as long as it's in one of these supported file formats. Now, every slide, once imported, will appear as a separate card that you can move around. You can delete if needed, and then build in those fun and exciting Kahoot questions into your presentation to create an engaging and interactive presentation with Kahoot. It is a newer use of Kahoot, but we definitely encourage it for those with EDU subscriptions. Now that was going over quite a lot in the Creator. There is even more, but to be mindful of time, we are going to move on. So exiting out of the Creator, we're going to land in our Library tab, and this is where I like to talk about one of the main benefits of Kahoot EDU is the ability to bring many of your educators into one account. So what that allows is in the library, everyone will have their own personal folder where Kahoots are saved, but then they'll also have access to a shared folder. So in this shared folder, everyone a part of this EDU account will have access to the Kahoots that are saved to this folder. So very easy sharing. If you do have instructional designers, curriculum creators, they can create templates or even Kahoots themselves that could then be duplicated and customized by the teachers or even just played by the teachers. You also have the ability to create folders within those folders to create organization within the content that your teachers are creating. Now, going into groups, it's another great space for sharing as well. With Kahoot EDU, you can set up organization level groups as you see here, also by here, that your users can be members of. You can add Kahoots to those groups, share a couple of those in here. And then you can also easily invite members that are within this EDU account. So again, very easy sharing and also collaboration with Kahoot EDU amongst those who would receive a license. So now I'm going to go back into the library tab to talk about our different ways to play. So when I go to play a Kahoot, I'm given two options. One of those is Teach, which is our live Kahoot, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. We've even been playing live Kahoots today. But then we also have our Assign or our asynchronous option with our Kahoot challenges. Now, when I go to assign a challenge, I can decide to not set a deadline or choose to set a deadline for when the challenge needs to be completed by. I also have the option to completely turn off the question timer altogether. Now, if some of your students might be a little bit anxious, they need a little bit more time with the content to learn, turning off the question timer allows them that time in that space to learn through self-discovery and self-research. Of course, if you're getting closer to an exam, you might want to have the question timer on just to make sure that they're able to recall that knowledge fairly quickly. But it all just depends on how you are using this particular Kahoot that you are assigning or playing. Also here, you'll see down at the bottom with Kahoot EDU for both live games and challenges, the player limit is 2,000. So you can think quite big when it comes to these Kahoots. Now, once I create this challenge here, you'll see that the way that I share this challenge is by copying this link here and pasting it in whatever communication platform I'm using to share assignments with my students. You can also use one of our integrations here. You could also just copy and paste the game pin. So either the link or the game pin is going to give students access to this challenge. So we've landed in our reports section. So our reports is where you can find live challenges that you have open, as well as any Kahoot that you've completed. So I'm going to go into this report here to look at and get insights to inform my instruction. So in this report, I can change the name. So if you do want to, rename it to be a particular class or a particular cohort of students, you can do so. You'll see the overall percentage or performance of the Kahoot. And if there are any difficult questions or questions that students struggled with, they will appear here. And if there's more than 3, you are prompted to create a Kahoot out of those difficult questions. Now, I really love this feature. What I think is great is it can really complement a live Kahoot. So if you play a live Kahoot, there's a couple of difficult questions. You could then create a brand new Kahoot just with those difficult questions, assign those difficult questions as homework or as a challenge to then send to the students to let them revisit that content, to study it a little bit more prior to the next time they come to class. You can also see who might need help or who didn't finish this Kahoot. And you can also go into specific player information. So looking at KDK up here, opening up, I can see how this student answered every single one of these questions. Even down here, you'll see that there is an open-ended, which was what is one goal you have for the year? And this student wrote to make new friends. So I can check on every question that they answered. Now, additionally, I can go into the questions themselves. So going into the questions themselves, let's go into that open-ended question type again and see how this appears for me. So I can see how every student answered this specific question. So to travel, to visit my sister in Spain, to put myself out there and to meet people more. So great insights that you can get from a report, both from the angle of the individual players as well as the questions themselves. Now, if you do love to manipulate data with the 3 dots over here, you can download the report. It will download in an Excel format, and then you can manipulate the data from there. Now, additionally, this Kahoot was played as a challenge, as you see here. And with a challenge, the podium, which if you're familiar with, is very exciting, as we know. And so with a challenge, they don't get that immediate podium to see the winners of this Kahoot. So you can leave the Kahoot as is, not necessarily make it as competitive, but you can also view the podium together with the students. Maybe you have a challenge ending on Friday and you view the podium together. You can also share a link to the podium as well. So just know that the podium is still there. It still exists. You just have to either view it or share it with the players. Now going into our Discover page, this is where you're going to find all of the existing content within Kahoot. Some of you may have been watching me in the Creator thinking, Sydney, that looks like so much work. Our Discover page will really be your best friend. This is where you'll find our Kahoot Academy content as well. So I can search for a Kahoot on a particular topic that I plan to cover with my students. I can also filter by subject, by different levels, who the Kahoot is created by, and even different languages. I can also change the language up at the top right, or click any of these subjects at the top to further filter our content. Now, here you're going to see our premium partners. These are partners that create amazing educational content built for your classrooms with teachers in mind, which is so amazing. We are so happy to have them. Big names such as Disney, Marvel, National Geographic, WWF, Kaplan, Steve Spangler Science, Chess 24, Rebel Girls, Dragon Box, Whiteboard, Drops. If you are a language teacher, Drops creates beautiful language learning Kahoots to inspire or to use in your own classroom. And then down here, you're also going to see some of our social and emotional learning publishers and Kahoots. Now, on a publisher page here, you're going to see the different Kahoots available. I'll choose to check out this empathy Kahoot. I can look at the Kahoot as a whole, see all the answers as well. And you'll notice with our publishers, the edit function, the duplicate function is not there. So once you play this Kahoot, the report will still come back to you as the host of this Kahoot. But because Empatico works so hard on creating this content for teachers, you unfortunately cannot edit these Kahoots, but feel free to play them with your students. You can also favorite the Kahoot or share the Kahoot very easily as well. Now, going back into the Discover page, we're now going to look at a Kahoot created by a teacher and what you can do with that. And oh, look, someone here we might all know and recognize, Mr. Steve Sherman. Let's check out Steve's Kahoots. So looking here, we have a lot of living maths Kahoots. I'm going to go down all the way to the bottom to the first one. Now again, here you can look at this Kahoot to check out to make sure that it's all good. And maybe for myself and my students, I'm saying, 32 questions is quite a lot. Maybe I want to shorten this Kahoot to make it more appropriate for the time that I have with my students. You'll see that there is an edit function here. Going into the three dots, we can duplicate this Kahoot, and it is going to land in my library where I can edit this Kahoot at large. So that is a really great feature in Kahoot EDU, where you can customize the existing content that is in our Discover page that teachers are creating on a regular basis. Now, of course, with any of our Kahoot Academy verified educators, you can trust and know that the Kahoots that they create are very high quality. So feel free again to play any Kahoot as it is. The report will come back to you. But if you do want to customize it, that option is available as well. So that is everything that I typically like to go over in a Kahoot EDU workshop and training. So thank you for sticking with me through this demo. And now I'm free to answer any questions that you have.
So Sydney, I see that we've got quite a few people that might want to ask questions. We're just having a look in the section below, and hopefully we will pull out one or two questions that are going to appear. But from my point of view, using the EDU has been incredibly useful, especially the part where you assign a challenge. What I have found quite useful is that some schools often put out a quiz for the entire school, and they give them a week to respond, and then they have a final assembly at the end of the week, and they call up the students in the assembly, and they present them with house points or whatever it may be, a certificate, and that's a great way to get families and students involved in taking part in quizzes. What are your favorite features that you would recommend to teachers?
Oh, the duplication feature is one of my favorites, the ability to customize content. I didn't show it off, but I also do love our question bank that is available in our Creator to search for existing questions in public Kahoots. I could go on and on about my favorite features, but I also do agree that challenges, I think, really opens up so much opportunity with your students. And so if you have not assigned a challenge yet, I definitely encourage you to do so. They are amazing.
One thing I have noticed is there was a slight change in the question bank. In past, it used to have an actual question bank button, but now you will notice at the top of your screen, there's a little magnifying glass, and you can type in keywords and obviously find questions that have those keywords in. But what is quite convenient is that it also lists general quizzes that have that keyword in and your quizzes, in case you want to reuse a couple of questions from your own quizzes.
Absolutely. And Steve, I did see a couple of questions that I might just read out. There's a question about spelling errors when it comes to the type answer question, which is absolutely appropriate thing to ask. That is why we do enable you to have 4 accepted answers, and taking spelling into consideration is definitely something that you can do. Now, if a student does not type in one of those 4 options, you can still look at the report and see that they got it correct, maybe just misspelled it, but in the Kahoot game itself, they would get that answer incorrect, unfortunately.
Just to add to that, I have found that when I do set questions like that, I'm always very cognizant of the fact that, you know, if you set an answer and the answer is 101, it could be 101, it could be 101, it could be 101, and sometimes people might misspell 100 and go, well, I got the answer, but the points don't reflect in the score. So there have been times where I've actually said, I will not reveal the final score because I need to make 1 or 2 adjustments, and I'm able to take the spreadsheet from the report and quickly adjust the scores a little bit and then actually get the final tally at the end. So that is something that takes a bit of experience, but it can be done.
That is amazing that you do all that work, Steve, to make sure that they are getting the credit where it's due. I do have another question that was submitted, which are the answers from Open-Ended Brainstorm and Word Cloud anonymous? So Kahoot is anonymous in the sense of, you know, students do enter in a nickname. The nickname is what carries them through the game. So it would be the same for Open-Ended Brainstorm in Word Cloud. So the answers would appear, the names aren't really along there, and then you can go through your Kahoot. Do you have any experience with those question types, Steve?
I love the word cloud. It's a great way to represent what the audience is thinking. I also love the open-ended and the brainstorming. I think that it's a fabulous way to visually represent what the group is thinking collectively. So I love these new features, and I'm so excited that I get a chance to use them. But I do see a question over here. It says, do challenges remain permanently in Kahoot, or does it disappear after the deadline to play it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So challenges, if they're open, so the deadline hasn't passed and students are playing it, it will remain in the reports area for you to access and see who has been playing it and the results while it's happening. Once the deadline passes, students can no longer play the challenge, but that report or that challenge just turns into a report of that challenge played. So it doesn't delete anything. It's just if a student were to click on a challenge link after the deadline has passed, then they wouldn't be able to access the challenge. But that is why we do have that function in Kahoot EDU to be able to not set a deadline, which leaves the challenge open, I believe, for 5 years if you keep a challenge link for 5 years. So yes, that's a super awesome question.
Fantastic. Now I'm looking at our time.
Yes.
And it looks like we are getting close to our next session. So what I would recommend, if you have questions for Sydney, please type them in the chat or the Q&A. I know that Sydney is monitoring all of that, and she will certainly get to you as soon as she can. So thank you so much, Sydney. That was incredibly informative. And even though I use many of these things, I continue to learn new things every day. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you, Steve. Bye, everyone.
All right.